the problem is, this is the problem with FIFA. This isn't the problem with Qatar. I mean, I firmly believe everyone around the world should live their lives the way they want to live their lives. If the Qataris are happy with their government and their society, then let them be. But if you're gonna have a corrupt institution like FIFA be bribed into having a country like Qatar host this event, then it is on us, the general public, and our money in our wallet, to decide whether we wish to fund such a thing. And that's really where I think the buck stops, is with you as an individual. If you're paying to go to Qatar to watch this event, or if you're paying to support FIFA in any way, then I'm sorry, you are supporting Qatar and their policies in a roundabout way. So it is on you if you want to watch the World Cup or if you want to boycott the World Cup. But if enough people have the backbone to actually boycott the World Cup in a real way and show that the population of the world is incredibly displeased with FIFA looks at their bottom line. You hurt them in their wallet, believe me, things will change real quick.
Another point is that we shouldn't try to say like, oh, Qatar bad because this white guy going there would be in trouble. Okay, like, the Qatari gay people are important. Okay, so it shouldn't be like, oh, let's boycott Qatar because if I go to Qatar I would be in trouble. Like, how about the fact that so many LGBT people in Qatar are living lives that are far less than ideal as an LGBT member should be reason enough for us to be anti the Qatari government. Why are so many people are waiting to see how foreigners are treated? Do they not care about local Qatari people?
Exactly, but the problem is, Armin, we're gonna walk down the path, I would say the hallways of America and their policies of regime change in Iraq, and I mean, I see that this is a slippery slope of, if we start to dictate or start to say, well, you know, these people should be different, or they should have our moral standards, then I fear in this world we end up in that Iraq weapons of mass destruction, let's bring democracy to Iraq sort of scenario.
No. That's a slippery slope argument. That's a slippery slope fallacy. You don't have to. First of all, people should have the moral standards that is more tolerant of gay people and trans people and women, and we should try to push for that everywhere. Okay, just because. This is like black and white thinking, saying like, oh, the United States wanted to bring democracy to Iraq and it basically put sanctions on Saddam, killed 500,000 children just before the invasion and many more after. So, oh yeah, that means that every time we try to push for ideals and values that are superior to backward, barbaric values of Islamic and more religious and conservative cultures, it would lead up to a mass invasion of a country. Like, no, it doesn't necessarily have to go that far. We care for, like, the fact that this is another country. We're like, oh, it's their country, their values. Bullshit. Fuck them and their backward values. We shouldn't treat people like, oh, these are Qataris and we're this sort of country. These are our fellow human beings. We care about our fellow human beings. You don't. A government of another country can be like, oh, these are our people, so we treat them the way we want. No, I'm sorry. These are our fellow human beings, and we're not going to let you use borders as a way to keep us out of protecting them. They deserve protection as much as any gay person deserves protection in England or in the United States or in Canada. They deserve the same amount of protection, and we're going to try to do our best to come and stand in front of them and protect them against your human rights violations.
Yeah, but that's.
I'm going to say this.
Go
ahead. I'm going to say that Pakistan Defense Force is saying excluding Qatar from international events will only slow down Qatar's social progress. That's BS. You know who else had a global event? Hitler's Germany in 1933 Olympics, was it? Munich Olympics, yes, 1933 or something like that. What happened? Did Nazi Germany from the other side of the Olympics come out as a very socially progressive country? No, that these events actually legitimize that. This is cultural relativism. This is actually making them, it's legitimizing that, hey, it's okay for you to have a different set of human standards, and for us, we're Western people, because we value our humans more, so that's why we can give our humans more human rights. But no, you guys, you people, treat your people the way you want to treat. So
I
no.
actually kind of agree with Pakistani Defense Force there, but can you highlight it again? But I don't think that that's what we're doing with boycotting Qatar. So I think like it would. So you're saying excluding Qatar from international events will only slow down Qatar's social progress. I think we shouldn't exclude Qatar from all international events. I think this World Cup is a good way because it gets so much attention. For us to use as a way to highlight certain human rights violations. So certain people think that if you exclude them from here, that means that we are encouraging Qatar to be excluded from everything, from our international events. No, I think you should maintain positive trade relationships with Qatar, because I do agree that Qatar's economic development and its trade relationships with other countries and its involvement with other countries will encourage the sharing of the values and encourage Qatar to join the civilized world, the rest of the civilized world, and with more progressive values. I do agree with that. So I don't think like it's all or nothing. I think like you could use certain events like the World Cup, which is such high profile, especially when the event itself has been built on the back of immigrant workers, which with their rights being denied to them, and many of them dying in the process. I do believe that would be a good way to highlight this. Harris, you're distracting me with these things.
I think I'm just making the point with what you're saying. So these other some points are supposed to be. We need to touch these points as well. As Banksy spoke about that as well. These annual meetings. These people who were on the board to decide where's the next World Cup going. This woman from FIFA, she blew the whistle, Fiedra Al-Majid, that this guy was paid 1.5 mil, this guy was paid 1.5 mil, etc. And this news was even broken on the Sunday Times as well. Jack Warner given 1.6 million by Mohammed bin Hamad, etc. So there was clear corruption of how FIFA, there's even a Netflix documentary on FIFA's corruption and the whole FBI investigation. So many people have been arrested within the organization of FIFA. The way they got there is so ridiculous that they still, even after it was made clear to the whole world, even it blew up in our faces that, okay, Qataris basically bought this World Cup. They still did not, reverse their decision. They've spent $220 billion. I mean, this is a clear case of corruption. So it's not even a fair game. How many other? I think America was going for it. I think Australia was bidding for this World Cup as well. But look at this. Look at this sheer difference. Last one, Russia and Brazil, 11 billion. This is $220 billion with over 6,500 people have died constructing these monstrosity of infrastructure.
Wait, no. The 6,000 is not just the numbers of people who built the infrastructure. It's from before as well. But yeah,
no, I'm saying that died from before and during the World Cup. I think there was a fact check that is done.
No, it's from 2011 to 2020.
Okay, so since it was announced, but not necessarily working on the structures for the World Cup in general.
Since 2011 to 2020.
Yes. So in general, just building different things.
Yeah, but the Qatar won the bid in 2010. So there was this massive boost of. So there was a massive boost of infrastructure building. So it's not just the stadiums, So they're actually building train lines, whole metro, some new hotels, etc. They're building the whole thing that was built because of this. So there was this massive construction boom that started in 2011. So one way or another, it's all tied down to that. But besides the point, even if, let's just say on the other side they were building something else. But the point is, Piers Morgan saying that, we have Roe v. Wade in America. So, how can we be somehow moral compass or something? I mean, this is false equivalence by these people. When the classic word about how many people died building Wembley Stadium? How many people died, building any modern structure? So that's BS. So how can we go with this kind of country?
Okay, to be fair, more people have died because of United States human rights violations than Qatar's human rights violations. Okay, the point is that people like Piers, the problem with what people like Piers Morgan are saying is not that what he's not saying is not true. It is true, okay? However, why can't I address both? Like, why the fallacy of what a battery is that when I'm trying to highlight the human rights violations of Qatar, you bring up another country's human rights violations as a way to belittle these countries, like to take attention away from these countries' human rights violations.
I want to know the figure. How has America killed more people than Qatar through human rights abuses? Don't give me war figures.
Well, the sanctions before the war in Iraq, even if you focus on one country, okay, first of all, Iraq before the war, United States is at least responsible for killing 500,000 children through starvation. Okay, Cambodia, Vietnam, right, Afghanistan, right,
Ecuador.
The weaponizing Saudi Arabia and the war crimes that the weapons of the United States have committed in Yemen. Like each one of these countries is by far, like, alone. More than what again, I'm not an anti-US person, by the way, because I think United States has committed a lot of good in the world. That goes with being a superpower. Your harms is more than other people, and your good things are more than other people as well.
I think Armin, as an Iranian, you would know about Mohammad Mossadegh in the 1940s, 50s, and the events that the CIA and the British government were involved with.
I don't agree with that.
But I also want to say, Armin, but I also want to say, with these sanctions and the result, I know the Iraqi sanction on children's medicine, that was just, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But the other sanctions, for example, the sanctions that have been put on Iran or something.
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about
no. I get it. But I'm saying when sanctions are placed as well, this is actually one last step before going to war with a country. So it is still coming.
Yeah, that's the point I make. That's why I support the sanctions on Iran. But we have sanctions and we have sanctions. The sanctions on Iraq were not just the sanctions on Iran could be justified, but the sanctions on Iraq was not at all justified. They were on purpose designed in a way to cause the kind of atrocities that we saw in Iraq.
That was pretty bad. But having said that, though, we do judge people how they treat their own subjects, their own citizens. Because so in America, you would not have the kind of atrocities for their own human rights abuses the way Qatar is probably having itself. Because if we extend, America has a luxury. America is a superpower. Qatar is not a superpower. So somebody said that France's policy in the former colonies in Africa is worse than that of Qatar's policy in Africa. And his point was Qatar has not had any influence in Africa. So therefore, by default, France also already becomes worse than Qatar, just purely by association. So that's not the way to look at it, because if we're going to judge countries, we're going to judge countries on the basis of how they treat their own people.
Okay, I need to address this thing, and then we go to Banksy and we go to Ibn Qayyim. The oxymoron in the live chat is saying, generally, whataboutism is not a fallacy. It points out inconsistencies in application of given criteria. No, oxymoron, you're wrong. There's a difference between whataboutism and pointing out inconsistency or calling it hypocrisy. Let me make it very easy for you, okay? If you say, if A is wrong, okay, then B should also be considered wrong, that is good. You're pointing out inconsistencies with other people or calling out hypocrisy, okay? But if you say forget A being wrong because B also happened, it's okay that A happened because B also happened, then that is not you pointing out inconsistency or hypocrisy. That's you trying to distract from the wrong that is A by using the wrong that is B. So try to people have to be very careful. It's okay to call out inconsistencies, but not okay to do whataboutism. So Piers Morgan was doing the whataboutism, not because when he said, when we pointed out the human rights violations in Qatar, he said, what about US? What about UK? He wasn't saying you guys should condemn the US and UK, because he doesn't even know if his audience do, because many people who do condemn Qatar for their human rights violations are people who are also having issues with United States and UK's human rights violations. He was saying, stop calling out Qatar because the US did it. He didn't say, if you say condemn both, then that is trying to be consistent. If you say don't do this one because some other people are doing, that is whataboutism. Banksy, you want to make your last point before we go to Ibn Karim?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, I agree with you that these two are not mutually exclusive. Just because America rolled back on Roe v. Wade is not, completely mutually exclusive of Qatar's human rights. Both can be wrong at the same time, and both should be highlighted at the same time. That's perfectly legitimate. But as far as my concept of interference is that, although, yes, you said that we don't necessarily have to interfere with people just because we call out their human rights violations, I feel that these are the steps that people usually, especially governments like America, take to convince the populace that it is okay to do things like sanctions and invasions off the back of these excuses of human rights. This is what happened in Libya. This is what happened in Iraq. They've done this consistently. Now, you are saying that, yes, we can point out their human rights violations, but for me, I always stand on the side of we can highlight people's bad doings, but it is up to the people of that nation to change their government and their policies, not on us to do that for them.
No, it's on us. It's on us. Human rights is a global issue. You cannot have, this is moral relativism. Okay, we can have an influence. We could help them with their fighting people with their rights. We don't, people inside a country, when sometimes they're in a prison, sometimes minority groups need the aid of other minority groups outside of their borders because by themselves they're weak, because the majority of that country is oppressing them. So if we say it's up to them, well, that's not going to happen because they don't have the ability, they don't have the power, they don't have the resources. They're looking at their fellow human beings outside of the border who have gone through the same fight, and they're asking for support. You as a fellow human being have to reach out and you have to provide them with their support. They don't need just encouragement, they require support. They require assistance. Because
but that assistance again has not proven historically, even in recent history, that's proven to be disastrous. Look at Libya, look at Iraq. Do you honestly think that these were good acts? These were moral acts by the West?
That's a fallacy. You're using a Secular Jihadist fallacy. You're giving me examples of extremes and acting like this is the only outcome.
But this has been the reality of recent events in the world. It hasn't been like we haven't just given moral support to Iraq. We didn't just cheer on the Iraqis to overthrow Saddam.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Pay attention to my words, okay? I didn't. You say this is a reality. Did I say the things that you said did not happen? I'm acknowledging that they happen. I'm saying these are the extreme examples. You keep repeating that they happen. These are reality. Pay attention to my words, okay? We have many examples of positive influence, many examples of things, human rights groups that are cross-border, that helped each other, assisted each other, that provided assistance to each other, that actually helped. Right? You go to the most extreme examples of people in the name of democracy come and bombard an entire country, and you're like, oh, this is a reality. Is anybody saying that is not reality? My point is that you cannot go to the extremes and say that every time we try to assist a minority group in their struggle against oppression in another country, that has to result in carpet bombing in another country. The fact that you have to constantly go through these examples shows that you're like grasping at extremes.
But having said that though, but don't you think in light of recent events, and this is probably the reason why a lot of people think that, hang on a second, when a lot of people say, hey, why is the West not doing anything in Iran? There's so many Iranian protesters, but they don't have any weapons. So now America has, or the West has this, they have a bit of a conundrum. Like, if we give them weapons, then there's a civil war. If we don't give them weapons, then these protesters are dying. So, but all those, anti-American who blame America for Libya and Egypt and whatever, and Syria, don't you see like it's a bit of a catch-22 for America? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
To have your questions answered on the next live stream, become my patron today. You can do so with as little as $1 a month. Link in the description below.